This is the Moonlight Graham Show, a freewheeling conversation with the role players, the underdogs, and guys with flat-out great stories in sports.
Hello and welcome to the Moonlight Graham Show, and our Moonlighter for today is a four-time Big Sky Conference Basketball Coach of the Year from Bancroft, Iowa. His name is Randy Rahe. That's right, Randy Rahe is on the podcast today. He has coached Weber State University to 5 Big Sky championships. His career record out at Weber State is 296 and 179 for a 623 winning percentage. But before he became a resident of Utah, he grew up in Bancroft, Iowa. And Bancroft, Iowa, if you've been around Iowa, if you follow baseball in the state of Iowa, it's one of these small, legendary baseball towns similar to Norway, Iowa, or Lansing, Iowa, which somehow, even though it's a tiny little town, has a beautiful baseball diamond and produced tons of state championships, Major League Baseball players. In those little towns, they lived and breathed baseball for most of the 20th century, and Randy Rahe is a product of that. After graduating from Bancroft St. John's High School, he went off to play basketball and baseball at Buena Vista University. Is it Buena Vista or Buena Vista? I always say Buena Vista University in Storm Lake, Iowa. He was a two-sport athlete there, but got into the coaching ranks after college and has been the head coach at Weber State for a bunch of years now. He's the all-time winningest coach in that program's history. And I think maybe the most interesting part of Randy Rahe's tenure at Weber State is he recruited and coached for 4 years Damian Lillard. That's right, Damian Lillard was a 4-year college guy. He's one of the top 10 basketball players in the world right now. And not only did he go to a small mid-major like Weber State, but he stayed there for 4 years. And Randy Rahe recruited him and coached him. And in this episode, he tells that entire story of how Lillard ended up at Weber State and how that draft process went with, and there's some really great stories about recruiting Damian Lillard in his time there. But Randy Rahe, it's great to get him here on the podcast, and one of the interesting things about this show is how we get to certain guys. And so Randy Rahe, how I got to Randy Rahe, one of his good buddies is a guy by the name of John Bartolo, who's lived up in Algona, Iowa for most of his life, and he's a loyal listener here on the podcast. And John Bartolo reached out to me about a year ago and said, you need to get Randy Rahe on the pod. He's got a great story. So John sent me what I thought was Randy Rahe's number. And so I texted and I called and left some messages for what I thought was Randy Rahe's phone number, only to find out later that I was texting some random lady in Utah. So I was never actually able to get to Randy Rahe, but it took me a long time to figure that out because about 2 months back, a friend of mine, this is bizarre, but a friend of mine is playing catch with his dog at a dog park. And he sees another guy there playing catch with his dog at a dog park. And my buddy makes a comment to the other guy and says, hey, you got a good arm. You must have played baseball. And this other guy says, you bet I played baseball. I'm from Bancroft, Iowa. And this starts this conversation between my buddy and this guy from Bancroft, Iowa about high school baseball. And this guy starts telling the story about Bancroft playing St. Edmund, which is, of course, my high school, where my parents went to high school. And the story is Bancroft playing St. Edmund in like 1977, which is my dad's senior year. And this guy, this random guy, is telling a story about Randy Rahe facing my dad in high school. And so as soon as the conversation's over, my buddy calls me and says, you got to talk to this guy. And I end up talking to this random guy at a random dog park about Randy Rahe and my dad playing against each other in baseball in 1977. And then this guy says, I hear you have a podcast. You got to get Randy Rahe on the podcast. And so that's what prompted me to go back to John Bartolo and say, hey, do I have the right number for Randy Rahe? Because he's not picking it up. Sure enough, I had one number wrong in the number. I got the right number, was able to connect with Randy Rahe, and he gives a great interview. Not only does he talk about growing up in Bancroft, Iowa, his athletic career, but obviously coaching at Weber State, recruiting Damian Lillard, what that did to the program, some of their big wins, some of their big losses. It's a great underdog story. I think you guys are going to really love it. Guys, listen in to the end of this episode because the Kevin Costner quest continues. So make sure to tune in at the end of the episode to hear any recent news on the Kevin Costner quest. And if you like what we're doing, make sure to subscribe to this podcast wherever it is that you get your podcast. And we would love it, folks, if you left us a 5-star review. Obviously, you can also follow us on social media, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. We love hearing from you guys each and every week. So enjoy today's episode with the great Randy Rahe, and keep listening at the end for the Kevin Costner quest. Randy Rahe, welcome to the Moonlight Graham Show. You, of course, grew up going to Bancroft St. John's back in the 60s and 70s. This is a town that is really well known for baseball. And in the 20th century, we had towns like Norway, Iowa, Bancroft, Iowa, all these little towns, Lansing, throughout Iowa that just were known for great baseball. What was it like growing up in a town like that in, the 1960s and 70s?
Yeah, well, I'm not that old. I did grow up. I did play baseball in the 70s, but no, Tim, it was, it was really cool. It really was. I mean, that was our life, to be honest with you. Every spring, summer, and fall. Now, we didn't have a lot of sports at St. John's. We didn't have football. We didn't have some of the extracurricular sports that they have now or other schools have now. So basically, we had a spring baseball season, a summer baseball season, and a fall baseball season. So you had a chance to win 3 different state championships, which was really cool. And we won a few, but it was just kind of what you did. It was tradition. My father played baseball at St. John's. His father played, and all my cousins, uncles, everybody just played baseball. So when you're growing up, and they had a great youth league program. We called it the midgets is where you started playing baseball. No, those are like 5 years old, and it was organized. And then you went from midgets, you graduated to the peewees. All right. And that gets up to 8, 9, 10. And then you get up to, what was the next one? I can't remember, but what they called it. But then you got into after junior high, and then you get into high school. And it was just this progression and really good coaches. We had the high school kids were coaching the peewees and the midgets. And anyway, it was just, it was a tradition. And that's what we did all summer. When we got done with baseball practice or playing a game, we all went to the park and played more baseball on our own, just pickup games. And so it was great. It was a great childhood. It was great to be raised in that environment and very innocent, but that's what we did, man. We did it all day long. And that's why you see a lot of success. And then of course we had the all-time winningest high school coach ever in Iowa. VJ Meyer was our baseball coach. He was there 30 some years and just a tremendous, tremendous coach. And he probably had more influence on me as a coach than anybody I've ever had. So it was really a cool experience.
You mentioned that influence that your high school baseball coach had on you now as a coach. What did you steal from him?
Basically holding kids accountable. I got old school. It's basically discipline, structure, holding kids accountable, tell them the truth, coach them hard, and let them know, what the truth is. This day and age, sometimes kids they can't handle the truth. I tell my team all the time, real players, real dudes want the truth and they want to be coached hard. Pretend players, dudes, they don't want to hear the truth because they may not like it. They can't handle it, right? But VJ Meyer always told us the truth. He coached us hard. He pushed us hard. But on top of that, he had a good relationship with us. He was good to us. We knew that he cared about us. And when you got a coach that loves you and cares about you, you'll run through a wall for him. And he can coach us hard, and we'll take it because he's got our best interests at heart. And that's really what the way I coach today. We got very good relationships with our players. They know how much I love them and care about them, but they also know I'm going to push their ass harder than they've ever been pushed. And I'm going to coach them hard, and I'm going to tell them the truth, and we're going to hold them accountable for everything they do. But it all starts with having a real trusting relationship.
Yeah, it seems like today's day and age, a lot of times coaches talk about you can't coach kids as hard today as maybe you could have 20, 30 years ago. You're talking like you're old school, you're pushing kids hard.
But how has the times changed in how you've worked with kids as far as it relates to how hard you can push them?
Well, I still don't believe that you can't push them as hard, because you can't if you're a head coach and you don't have a genuine, caring relationship with your players, then you cannot coach them hard, because they're looking at you like you're full of BS, man. You don't really care about me, and you're going to try to make me do loose ball drills and take charge drills when I don't think you really care that much about me. But I think you can coach them as hard as you want if you definitely have that relationship and it's genuine. Kids know if it's genuine or not. They can read BS a mile away. And but if it's genuine, you can push them as hard as you want. But I've noticed too, over the years that I've been here 15 years, it's changed. Kids have changed. I think social media has changed a lot of things about these kids. And it's not always for the worst. It's just that it's become a more selfish society. Social media is about me, me, me. Listen to what I'm saying. Look at my posts. Look at my videos of what I'm doing. Everything's turned inwards now, and it's all about, themselves. And that's okay, I guess, but it drives me crazy. I'll be honest with you. I don't have social media. I don't know what Insta, Twitter crap. I don't have any of that stuff. I'm not smart enough to have it. And I don't want it. It takes too much of my time. People get addicted to it. I got other things I want to do, but but I think it's changed how kids, it's about them more. And so now that it is about them, you got to let those kids know, yeah, I do care about you as a person. I really do. And it's genuine. And I want what's best for you. And I want you to be successful here. And I want you to have a successful life. So you better have that. And I've noticed too, I'm getting off a little bit online, Tim, but it's kind of a pet peeve of mine. But the transfer portal now, you're aware of, kids that leave schools can be eligible right away. Well, we've been recruiting kids from the transfer portal a lot. And it's worked out really well for us. We've got really good players, good kids from there. But when I ask kids why they're leaving a particular school, why they want to transfer, what I'm finding out is probably at least 85% of those kids are saying, because I don't have a relationship with my head coach. And I want a relationship with my head coach. And so, times have changed a little bit. Back in the day, you could push kids hard, whether you cared about them or not. It's just, you're going to do it. I'm old school. I was always brought up, you do what the coach says, no matter what. Coach is always right. Whatever he says, you do it. And now it's changed in the last and I've noticed it probably in the last 8, 9, 10 years. And it's not a bad thing. I think it's a good thing. You should have relationships with your kids.
Yeah. Well, what's funny, kind of going back to your childhood, you talked about, playing baseball in the spring and the summer and the fall, Bancroft St. John's, baseball school, baseball town. But you're also a good hoops player. And when we're talking about you coaching, we're talking about hoops. We're not talking about baseball, right? And you went on in college to play both baseball and basketball at Buena Vista College in Storm Lake, Iowa. And it's funny because, you see some dual sports guys in college, but a lot of times it might be baseball and football because of the fall and the spring seasons. How did you make it work with baseball and basketball being back-to-back seasons, back in the late 70s?
Yeah, well, it was, I tell you what, it was
early 80s, I guess.
Yeah, it was 78 to 82. I was at Buena Vista. So, I was always much better baseball player than I was at basketball. I was fine in basketball. But I mean, I'm a midget, right? I'm like 5'7". I'm not going to go anyplace. And I've always loved basketball more, but I was a better baseball player. Size, whatever. I just grew up playing it probably a little bit more. But when I got to Buena Vista and I went there on a scholarship for baseball, I had to walk on for the basketball team. They already had their dudes, their real players. I was a pretend player, sort of. And so I tried to walk on the first year and I got cut. I didn't make it the first year. So I just played baseball. And then we brought in a new coach and I tried out again and walked on and they kept me. And that's back when Buena Vista had a JV team and a varsity team. So I was a walk-on player and they allowed me to play some on the JV team. So, but I loved it. I absolutely loved it. Now it was tough. I didn't know any different. You go from, baseball practice would start basically in January where we'd start working out, get in the batting cage, start throwing, conditioning. So you'd have to go from basketball practice. And at night I'd have to go in and get my baseball reps. And so, but it didn't matter to me. It was tough. I probably didn't study as much as I should have. But I just absolutely loved it. And the more I could do, the better. But it got a little bit tough there. And then as soon as basketball was over, I jumped into full-time baseball. And I was always a bit better at baseball. I knew the bills were being paid by baseball. So if there was a conflict, I picked baseball first. But it was a great experience. I loved my time at Buena Vista. I made incredible friendships. The people were awesome. I had one of the best coaches I've ever had, and Jay Beckman as a baseball coach. I still use him today as, his example as I coach today. And he's one of the most tremendous human beings I've ever been around and had a big influence on my life. But Buena Vista College was absolutely terrific to me, and I loved my time.
Why coach basketball instead of baseball?
I've always liked basketball more. I just like the fast pace. I did start when I left Buena Vista, I went to a small town in Colorado, really small town, about 2,000 people, town called Stratton. It was it wasn't the beautiful part of Colorado. It was in the plains of Colorado, but I was coaching everything. I was like assistant baseball, assistant basketball, junior high basketball, junior high track. I actually coached football, never even played football. I coached junior high football one year, had a blast doing it. But, when you go to those small towns as a first year teacher coach, you kind of got to do everything. And I've just always enjoyed basketball more. I like the fast pace of it. I love the strategy of basketball more. So as I got moving on, I became a head basketball coach in a small town called Bethune, Colorado. And I left Stratton just so I could be the head basketball coach at a town. And I only had 7 kids on my team. It was a country school. There was I want to say there were 60 kids, K through 12 in the whole school. Wow. But that was my first time to be a head coach. And I had 7 kids, and my tallest kid was 6 foot. And we had to figure out a way to win games. And so I got to learn how to coach, and I loved every minute of it. But anyway, yeah, I've just enjoyed basketball quite a bit more than I did baseball.
Who were your heroes growing up?
My coaches. When I was in high school, VJ Meyer was my hero, and my dad was my hero too. I used to go to his baseball games when he was playing town. Back then, they had town team, right?
Yeah.
And I was like a bat boy when Dad and all the older fathers, and they weren't that old back then, but they were still able to play. And so I'd watch him play. My dad was really good. He was really good. I think he made it AAA with the St. Louis Browns or something. And all those guys are good. I mean, I watched great players playing town team, and I was a little bit in awe of all those guys. But my coaches were always my heroes as well. VJ and my college coach was a hero of mine too. But I really idolized more of the ex-Bancroft players as a baseball player than I did professional baseball players. I never watched a lot of baseball on TV. Back then you couldn't get a major league team on TV. So I didn't really identify with the Major League Baseball players, but I identified with all the great players from Bancroft. So those guys were more my heroes than the Major League guys. And in basketball wise, I was always a big Boston Celtics fan. So I loved all the John Havliceks and the JoJo Whites and Dave Cowens, and then Larry Birds and all the great players, Bill Russell, all those guys. Basketball wise, those guys were kind of my heroes.
So you've been in the basketball world for quite a while now. Have you ever had a chance to meet any of those old time Celtics guys?
I actually did. Yes. When we had Damian Lillard here, the year he put his name in the draft, he was invited to the combine. And it was in Chicago. They bring all the best players and all the top draft picks. And so I went to watch him. So I go in to watch him one of the first days, and and Damian knew we have a very close relationship. He knew Larry Bird was my guy. And we'd always talk about NBA guys and who's your guy and who's my guy and who would you, if you're a GM, what team would you draft and what team would I draft, and my team would kick your team's ass. And we'd always talk about that kind of stuff. Excuse me. But so we get to the combine, and Damian's going to start his workout, and he's just kind of warming up. And I just go sit down, in the bleachers. And all of a sudden from the other side, here comes Larry Bird. And he sits down about 3 chairs from me. And I'm looking over and I'm like, damn, that's Larry Bird. That's my guy, right? And Damien's seeing me. He sees me from the court when he's warming up, and he gives me one of those look. He's like, hey, that's your guy. And I said, yeah, it is, and I wasn't going to say anything to him. He was working for the Pacers, and he was at the combine, obviously doing work for the Pacers. And then Jerry West comes and sits down on my right side.
Wow.
And I'm sitting there, and Damien's over there, hey, look at, because I love Jerry West. Who doesn't, And so that was pretty cool. Now, Damien gets done, he gets done working out and does a great job. I mean, he's playing against guys from Kansas, Kentucky, Duke. And I told him beforehand, I says, you're going to be playing against all these high major dudes, but you're going to be better than these guys because you have all the winning intangibles. You have everything. The talent might be the same, but your toughness and competitiveness, you're going to go out there, and don't you look twice at those guys. Go out there and kick their ass. Let's go. And but anyway, he gets done. He plays really, really well. And Larry Bird leans over and he sees my Weber State shirt. He says, hey, is that your guy? And I said, yeah. And he said, he's good. And I said, yeah, he's pretty good. And he walked away. So that was my only conversation with Larry Bird. I wasn't going to go on and screw it up. So anyway, it was kind of cool.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great story about, you and the relationship, you meeting Larry Bird, Jerry West. I love all of that. But I think the obvious follow-up question is, how in the hell did you get Damian Lillard at Weber State?
Yeah, that we were very fortunate. The way we got him, his junior year of his high school, he was from Oakland. And his junior year, his AAU coach was a really good friend of mine. We're close. And he calls me in January of Damien's junior year. And he says, hey, you guys going to need a guard down the road and blah, blah, blah. And I said, yeah, we do need one. He says, well, I got a kid and nobody's recruiting him. He's only a junior and it's January, but he's going to be good. And I trusted this guy to no other. And I said, great. And I says, yeah, we want to recruit him. So he gave me Damien's number. He says, hey, give him a call. So I gave him a call, and Damien was the worst. I've recruited a lot of guys. He was as bad as anybody on the phone. He hated to talk on the phone. He just wasn't him. So I called him up and told him who I was. And he's, how you doing? Good. What are you up to? Nothing. How you playing? Good. He wouldn't give me anything, but I kept calling him. And same thing. He didn't really have, didn't feel like he had a lot of he was interested at all. Anyway, so we got out to see him. So it came April, and that's when we can go out and recruit. So in April, we went out, me and my assistant, to go watch him play for the first time. And I'm sitting there watching him play, and I'm like, we can't get him. He's too good. And my assistant says, God, yeah, he's good, man. But nobody was really recruiting him just yet. He was kind of below the radar. He said, hey, let's just keep going. We've got a relationship. I offered him a scholarship a long time ago. We were the first ones to do it. So we followed him all summer. And as the summer went going and Damien was playing really good, people were finding out about him. So more schools came in, started recruiting him. But every time I called Damien, he'd pick up the phone and he kept saying, Coach, I'm interested. And he kept telling me, I said, what do you want to have happen at your Division I school? What's important to you? He says, first of all, I want to trust and have a good relationship with my coaches. Second, I want to go where I know I can play right away. I'm not going to sit around as a freshman. I want to go play right away. And third, I want to win. And we've been winning and all that kind of stuff. And we had developed a relationship, even though there wasn't a lot of give and take. Anyway, we got through the summer, and this has taken a while. Cut me off if you want, Tim. That's fine.
No, this is what the podcast is for, Randy.
Okay. So anyway, we get in the fall, and that's when we got to start bringing kids to campus, right? And Damien was slow playing his recruiting. He didn't want to go on visits. He was shy that way. And we get towards the end of September, and I've got another couple kids I can get, but I'm waiting for Damien. He's the guy I want. And Damien wouldn't commit to a visit. And he went to one visit. He went to St. Mary's College because it's close to Oakland. Because it was close. He only had to drive. He only had to spend a day and a half. He went over there and he didn't like it. And actually he called me after he got back and he says, Coach, I don't like it over there. I played pickup ball with these guys and they froze me out. They wouldn't even pass me the ball, so the heck with them. I'm not going there. So anyway, I said, well, Damien, you got to either come this weekend or I got to bring in another kid. And if he wants to come, I got to take him. And he says, okay, I'll come this weekend. It was like easy. And I was like, well, why didn't you do this earlier? You know, he says, me and mom will come out. And I says, okay, great. So he comes on his visit. We got him on campus sometime like 6:00 at night, took him to the arena. He saw the lights were on, the balls were out. And he ran down to the court and started shooting. So me and mom are sitting there talking. And we've got a schedule. We got to get him to dinner. We got him to meet our guys. I kept saying, Dave, you ready? And he says, no, coach, I need to get workout. I need to shoot. And so he's down there. I don't remember exact time, but it was for an hour and a half. And I started canceling. Well, we're not going to get this done. But I said, we got the right guy here. All he wants to do is be in the gym, right? So anyway, we get done with the visit. We have a really good visit, and it goes well. And they go home. And so the following week, me and my assistant have to go out and do a home visit. Now, when we got to do the home visit, we get to this, and Damien didn't come from much now. They didn't have much. They're great people. They had a great family. Mom and dad were incredible people, just old school values. They raised him the right way. But we get there, and the way we recruit might be a little bit different, but I believe in telling the truth. And I'm going to tell him exactly how it's going to be if you come to Weber State. So he's got his dad there, his mom there. He's got like 15 cousins, uncles, nephews in this little house, and it's hot. And I'm sweating, and I'm going through the deal, right? And I always tell kids this. I'm going to tell you the truth. And this is our culture, and this is how you're going to do it. Now, if you don't go to class and academics isn't important to you, don't come to Weber State because I will send you home. That's how we do it. Now, if you can't give me your best every single day, I don't need a guy that's going to be good once every 3 days. That's a losing player to me. And if you can't give me your best every day, don't come to Weber State. I will send you home. And if you can't play for your teammates and give up yourself for the team and be an unselfish guy and play for Weber State, don't come. I'll send you home. And my assistant's kicking me. He's like, Coach, he
thinks you're being too hard.
Here. We got, I've already told him I think he's a good player and he can do all this and he can play as a freshman, but you got to do all these things, right?
Yeah.
And I kind of, I looked at him and his dad was like, and his dad is a great guy. He's an old school, tough, just old school values. You're going to work hard for what you get. And if you don't work hard, you don't deserve it. And so, but that's how we recruit. And then I also told him now, on the other hand, if you'll embrace those things I just told you, be a great student, give us your best every day, win the day, be the best you can in every area of your life, in everything, academics, socially, strength, weight room, workouts. And then if you play for your teammates and totally give up yourself for your team, you are going to love the results. You're going to be a great player. You're going to be a great student. You're going to be a great person. Anyway, so I get done. I'm talking to all the other people, and I'm about ready to leave. Damien, I can't find Damien and the dad. And the other thing is, I'm going to throw this in. Is this going too long? I'm sorry.
Nope.
Okay. Damien always wore a headband playing high school in AAU, and I hated headbands. We're going to dress the same. We're going to look the same. And he always wore a headband. And my assistant told me once, he says, what if Damien wants to come and wants to wear a headband, what are you going to tell him? And I says, damn, I never thought about that. I says, let's cross that bridge when it comes, but hopefully that's not an issue. I don't want to go there. But anyway, so I'm talking to mom and I says, hey, Gina, I got to go. And I see Damien and the dad out in the backyard and they're talking. So she says, hey, hang on for a couple minutes. And I said, okay, I'll wait. So here, about 10 minutes later, here comes Damien, here comes dad. And Damien's got a real serious look on his face. And anyway, he comes up to me and he says, Coach, I got one question for you. And I says, yeah, what? He says, if I come to Weber State, are you going to let me wear a headband? And I'm like, oh, shoot. Here it goes. I looked at him. I says, Dame, sorry about this, but I don't like headbands. I want everybody to look the same. It's who I am. I'm sorry. I don't like it.
Wow.
And he gets this look on his face, and he kind of steps away from me. He shakes his head. And I'm like, are you kidding me? I just lost this kid because I'm not going to let him wear a headband. But hey, it's what we do, right? I got to tell the truth. Anyway, he comes back 30 seconds and he sold me on it. He comes back. He puts his arm around me. He says, Coach, you think I really give a damn about a headband? I'm coming to Weber State. And that was the story. So
That's a great story, and I'm glad you told the whole story there, because it is fascinating, especially with a guy like that who's probably going to end up to be in the Basketball Hall of Fame. Like, he's just good. It's incredible how he keeps getting better each and every year. And it's interesting when you look at his stats. You look at Ja Morant, who went to a mid-major school, Damian Lillard, some of these guys that went to mid-major schools that have popped in the NBA. But Ja Morant lasted 1 year in college. Damian Lillard went all 4 years with you at Weber State. And it's just kind of hard to believe in this day and age that guy was a 4-year guy.
Yeah, no, it is really. He played, he was with me with us for 4, but played 3. He broke his foot at his 3rd year and missed the season, and then came back. And that's when he kind of blew up. But he was, it was amazing, because he was a first-team All-League player as a freshman, the only one in Big Sky history. He was MVP his sophomore year, and that's when he started to gain some NBA looks. Nobody was thinking about him, though, coming out at that time. He wasn't, he was getting looks, but it wasn't like on the mock drafts he was a guy yet. He gets hurt his junior year, and then he comes back for his 4th year, and he kind of blew up. We went and played St. Mary's at a tournament in St. Mary's, and it was in December. And Damian wanted a piece of St. Mary's. Remember the recruiting trip he took, right? He wanted a piece of them bad. And anyway, we're playing along there, and we're playing good. They were good. They had Matthew Della Dueva. They were really good. Yeah, and we're in a dogfight with them. And this is the only time Damian, he was such a great kid, wonderful to coach, all about team, tough. He had everything, all the winning intangibles. But we're playing. We get down to the last 10 to 8 minutes of the game, and it's a close game. And Damian, we're having a timeout, and he's got that look on his face. And it's like, okay, I'm going to whoop these guys by myself if I need to. He grabs me. We're going to a timeout, and he grabs me. He says, Coach, get me, and I can't say the word, get me the damn ball. And I said, hey, I'm not stupid. Yeah, I'm going to get you the ball. I've been getting you the ball the whole game, man. So don't, But he had that look on his face. Anyway, we ended up losing. I think it was a really close game. And I think Damian had 42, something like that. And Della Dueva, who was a great defensive player, couldn't guard him. But after that game, that's when everything the scouts started to come to practice, and the GMs. And anyway, we get towards the end of the season, and Damian did a great job. He's so focused. He put all that draft stuff out of it. He didn't even, I wouldn't say he didn't think about it, but it didn't affect him one bit. He just stayed focused and played great. And then the end, he obviously had to put his name in the draft.
So I guess the next question, and I want to be careful how I ask this because you've been so successful out there, but you have Damian Lillard for 3 seasons, 4 years. You never make the NCAA tournament with them. Now you've made the NCAA tournament. I think the year after Lillard was there, you made the NCAA tournament, but you never made it with him. How does that happen?
Well, we did have we got beat the 1 year. I think it was his sophomore year. We're playing at home, and we're playing Montana, who's always got a very, very good program, and they had really good teams back then. And it was always neck and neck with us, us and Weber. And the sophomore year, we had his sophomore year, we had a really good team. We're at home. We're up 20 at halftime, and we're kicking them. And we come out the second half, and they had a kid that went for 42.
Oh.
And we lost a 20-point lead and end up losing the game at the very end on some free throws or something. Easily the hardest defeat I've ever had as a coach. And but they were good. We were good. And they had a kid by the name of Will Cherry, who wasn't at the level of Damian, but he was also an NBA guy. So we ended up losing. And then Damian's last year, we had a bunch of injuries, and we had some of our top guys that couldn't play. And Damian was we just didn't have our same team because of injuries. But we had a couple of years there where, he played 3, and we had a couple of years of just his first year. We were close. We got to the finals of Big Sky, and we lost a close game. So we had some tough losses, but we also had a year where we just got so banged up that we weren't, quite good enough with all the injuries too. But that's just the way it goes sometimes. And then, and then it really hurt Damian as well. And then I think it was the second year after we won 30 games and ended up going to the tournament and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's hard to get to the tournament sometimes because you got to have everything fall into place. But bottom line is we just didn't get there.
Yeah, well, especially as a mid-major, because sometimes just one bad loss throughout the year can really just kick you out of the tournament from like an RPI and all those metrics standpoints. We've seen that. I'm a UNI grad, and that's happened to UNI a number of years where it's like they got all these wins and they're still on the bubble.
Yeah, same thing, kind of. And I know Ben real well over there. Ben's a good guy and done an incredible job. He's a great coach. But yeah, it's just tough sometimes. It's hard to take, but it is what it is. You just keep moving forward and try to get the next one.
Yeah. Well, Randy, the way we end every episode of the Moonlight Graham Show is with the 5 big questions. All right. And the first question is, back in your playing days, you play a lot of baseball, you play a lot of basketball. Who's your all-time favorite teammate that you played with?
Ooh, boy, that's a hell of a question. Because I've had some great teammates, high school baseball, basketball, I was really close to those guys and had good players. You know what? I'll tell you this. It's Byron Payton. Byron Payton and I played baseball together. And then him and I would throw Floyd Athey in there with him. Floyd was the third baseman. Byron was the shortstop. I was the second baseman. And we became very, very close. And me and Byron became best friends. He was there 3 years. I was there 4 years. I was one class behind him. But we became really, really close. And he was a great guy. And we still stay in contact as much as we can this day, today. But just a great person, great friend. Me and him were close. And Floyd's in that group too. We were just kind of like the 3 musketeers, I guess you could say. But friendship that's going to last forever. I've actually feel bad that I haven't stayed in close enough contact with those guys. But those, I would say those guys, and especially Byron.
Yeah, I love those.
Byron was a hell of a player. He was a hell of a short. He played Class A ball for the Reds. And I think he might have even got to Double-A, but he was good.
I love
a lot better than me.
Made like on the field or on the court. Even if you haven't talked to a guy like Byron in 10 years, you guys probably can pick up where you left off just because you shared all those competitive times together.
No question. We won't talk for 2 years, and then we'll talk, and it's like we haven't missed a beat. It's fabulous. I love the guy.
What's one memory that you have, either from your coaching career or your playing career, that reminds you of everything that you love about sports?
I don't know if there's one game or anything, but it's just what I love about coaching in sports is especially coaching is getting guys better and help them reach their full potential as a player, and then win a whole bunch of games with those guys doing it. You know what I mean? So you get the payoff of all the hard work, everything they do in the summer, everything they do in the off season, because we push our guys hard. And then to see them have success of winning conference championships, going to the NCAA tournament, and to see the joy, when you win conference championships and you cut down the nets. I always like to sit back and just watch our guys and just see the pure joy that they have and all the hard work that's paid off. To me, that's what coaching is all about. And then to see my guys, our guys, I should say, when they leave here and all the success they've had. I've got a whole bunch of guys, everybody talks about Damian. I got a whole bunch of guys that are really successful professional players overseas. I had another kid drafted by the Jazz a few years ago, Joel Bollenboy. He's doing great. Jeremy Singlin, Deb Berry. These guys are making a whole bunch of money. But to see them realize their dreams, to me, that's what sports is all about. And then the closeness that we have. I'm really close to all of our guys and all of our guys, not just the great players, but the guys that are high school coaches are doing great things as a business person, and guys that are really successful fathers and husbands and members of society. Those guys they all come back. They all want to come back in the summer, and we're a big family. And to me, that's what it's all about. I got to win games. If not, they won't want me, all that kind of stuff. But to me, that's what I think I'm here for, to develop those guys' lives and help them be successful.
On the flip side of that, what's one memory, maybe one game that still nags at you and keeps
the one I just talked about,
the Montana game?
Yeah, easily. Yeah. That one's a hard pill to swallow. We were good, and we didn't get it done. And that's one of those games where you look back and I killed myself for months after that. Now, what did I do wrong? And did I make the right adjustments? And then you watch the game and all that kind of stuff. And but that was easily the toughest game I think I've ever been involved in.
So obviously we're big fans of the movie Field of Dreams here, big Kevin Costner fans as well. Have you ever met Kevin Costner? You know, you're out in the Wild West. He's filming Yellowstone. Have you ever met Costner?
I'm a huge Kevin Costner fan and a huge Yellowstone fan. In fact, they filmed a lot of it in Utah. In fact, my wife and I were messing around. We went to like Park City. And for the weekend, we go on bike rides, hikes, and all that stuff. And on the way back, there's a little town called Colville. And Colville's got this cool little dive bar. We stopped in there to have a beer. And we're talking to the people. And Yellowstone filmed a bar scene in the last season where I can't remember who the dude was, but they had a fight at the end. And it was one of the guys that was supposed to be taken to the train station. You know, the train station in Yellowstone, right? You don't come back, right?
Yeah, you don't come back from the train station.
Well, this guy, they didn't kill him. Anyway, long story short is
it was the guy that played the guitar.
Yeah, he's playing the guitar. And anyway, they filmed that scene there, and I went back and saw the stage. But I've never met Kevin Costner and everything. And I'm a huge Field of Dreams. Everybody is from Iowa, right? But I've never had a chance to meet him. I'd love to meet him someday.
Is Field of Dreams your favorite Costner movie?
That, yeah, probably. That, I love the other one. What was the other one?
Bull Durham?
Bull Durham was awesome. That's right there. That's my top three. And then the other one was the one where he's the military guy. What's the one? I filmed in Montana, I think. Anyway, long, God. Anyway.
Oh, the No Way Out?
No. He was a cowboy. He was
Open Range?
Huh?
Open Range or whatever?
No. Anyway, it's going to come to me as soon as we hang up. But anyway.
All right.
But those two, Field of Dreams and Bull Durham, my top two.
Yeah. Our goal of this season of the podcast is to get Costner on one way or the other.
Wow. Oh, you got to get him. I'll bet he'll do it. I heard he's a really good dude.
I've heard he's a good guy, but who knows? I'm sure he's busy too.
Yeah, I'm sure he is too.
So final question here, Randy, is what's the best advice you've ever received?
You know, as a coach, I think be yourself and coach to who you are, coach to your values, coach to your character, you know, try to coach with integrity and tell the truth and just be who you are. I was blessed to, I worked 13 years for Stu Morrill, who's an incredible, probably as good a basketball coach that nobody knew about. And he just kind of taught me when I was able to go through the coaching ranks and then get my first head coaching job here at Weber State. He says, just be who you are and coach with value, run the program the right way, do it the right way with character, integrity, and, and treat kids the right way. But be honest and be truthful. Coach kids hard, but be honest, be truthful, care about your guys and do it the right way. And if you do that, you're going to have the results that you want. And I think that's probably the best advice I've ever gotten, and be true to who you are, be who you are and be true to who you are.
I love that. Well, Andy has two guys from North Central Iowa. It's great to connect because, there's just something about, being from that part of the state that never leaves you. And so
I got to tell you, how's Dad doing?
Dad's doing good. I texted him this morning. I said, I'm interviewing Randy Rahe. He's still a little butthurt about that triple you hit off him, 40 years ago.
Yeah, I caught what I did. Now, your dad was maybe him and Bart Warren. I don't know if you remember Bart Warren that played.
I know the name.
Dodge, were the two best pitchers I ever faced in high school. Your dad was amazing. And I closed my eyes and I actually made contact, but he doesn't remember all the strikeouts because I think I hit a triple and then struck out 3 times after that. So, but he was a tremendous pitcher. That was one of the highlights of my career in high school was to hit that ball off your dad. I still don't know how I did it, but
if you don't think my dad doesn't remember the strikeouts, you don't know his ego. The strikeouts.
I'm sure he remembers. He should, because he had a whole bunch of them, man. He was great. Give him my best.
I will. Well, Randy, thanks so much for taking the time. Really appreciate it, and best of luck next season at Weber State.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me, Tim. That was fun.
Thanks, Randy.
Thank you for listening to our episode with Randy Rahe. and you're probably waiting on pins and needles to hear the update on the Kevin Costner quest. Well, here it is. First of all, we did have a loyal listener reach out this week to let me know that he is close family friends with former writer-director John Hughes. That's right, John Hughes, who wrote, Home Alone, Ferris Bueller, Breakfast Club, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. That John Hughes from Hollywood, who I believe has passed. But our listener reached out, said he's close family friends, and he was going to reach out to that family to see if there's any Kevin Costner connections in the John Hughes family that may be able to help us out. So I think that's really good news. To my knowledge, Costner never appeared in a John Hughes film, but obscure things like this are why we are doing the Kevin Costner quest. And to add to that, I reached out to Timothy Busfield, who of course played Mark in the Field of Dreams. He wanted Ray to sell the farm, of course. I, for whatever reason, reached out to Timothy Busfield on Twitter, wanted to try to get him here on the podcast as an angle into Costner. Busfield has not responded to my tweet as of yet, but I'm working hard to get Busfield on the pod to see if he can connect us with Costner as well. So the quest for Costner continues. No news is good news, but we got the John Hughes family on it, and we got maybe a future episode with Timothy Busfield to help us connect the dots here as well. Another fact that you might be interested in as far as downloads of our podcast go, we had a great week of downloads with Ricky Stanzi on the podcast last week, but I thought maybe the most interesting thing as I was poring over the statistics over the past week was Alone. The TV show, I think, has a new season out, or it just got put on Netflix or something like that. So, of course, that show is getting Googled a lot. And we had, of course, Lucas Miller, who is from Iowa, and on season 1 of that show here on the podcast on April 2nd of 2020. So it's been like 15 months, almost 16 months since we had Lucas Miller on the podcast. But since Alone, the TV show, is popular again, we had 41 downloads this past week on the Lucas Miller episode. And I always think that's interesting. We saw that with marble racing. We had a ton of activity over the Netherlands when we had Greg Woods from Marble Racing on. And Lucas Miller is one of those episodes that we've done just because he was on the show and he's from Iowa, that has seen, kind of little bumps over time. And so Lucas Miller was one of our top 10 downloaded episodes this week, even though we had not released that episode for almost 16 months. So I think that type of stuff is interesting. I'm always curious as to how people find our podcast and when we pop up in Google searches, because we obviously don't pay for Google Words or Google Ads or anything like that, but people still find those episodes all over the world. So that's the little treat that I will leave with you today. As always, thanks for listening to our show. Special thanks to the Moonlight Graham Show team, the trusted co-host Tommy Griffin, my brothers Andy and Neil, Brian Samvig, of course, who is the producer of the podcast, and Brendan Gargano, who does all of our artwork here. Thanks for listening, folks, and have a great week, Moonlighters.
This is the Moonlight Graham Show, a freewheeling conversation with the role players, the underdogs, and guys with flat-out great stories in sports.